Joining me now is Kelly Hyman, attorney and host and producer of the podcast Once Upon a Crime in Hollywood. Why would the prosecution call Gutierrez-Reed to the stand, knowing she plans to plead the fifth? What's the strategy here?
The state has to prove their case, and they need to prove every single element of the case. Now, it's important to remember that Baldwin has been charged with involuntary manslaughter. That means that they assert that he was reckless with his gun. So what the reason why they want to call her is the fact they're hoping that she'll testify and try and get some testimony from her. However, it's our understanding that she is going to take the Fifth Amendment. And what does that mean? When she takes the witness stand, she will say, I assert the Fifth, because she's doing that because of self-incrimination, because the statement she could state could incriminate herself. So the strategy behind it is hopefully that she'll say something, but most likely not. She's going to plead the Fifth.
There's also some news surrounding her appeal as well, right? You know, she places in her appeal a lot of the blame on Alec Baldwin because he was holding the gun when it went off. How will her appeal, or will her appeal, impact Baldwin's current trial?
It shouldn't have any impact on the trial right now. Now, if there's some type of appeal, then that could potentially be used. But the state has to prove every single element of their cause of action and prove it. And then the jury, listening to the facts and evidence, will make a determination whether he is guilty or innocent. Now, if he is in fact convicted, and if there's some kind of evidence or something that they can use on the appeal, then that could potentially go into the appeal. But just outside of that, it shouldn't play a part in this trial.
There was some evidence presented in court yesterday proving that Alec Baldwin was not the only actor who had a live bullet. Is that a win for his defense? I would assume so.
Well, one of the key arguments that they're making is that it wasn't his fault, that it wasn't his responsibility as an actor to make sure that the gun had these live bullets, and also the fact that there should never have been live bullets on the set, that was the role of the armorer. Now, it's also important to remember in this case, in the opening statements, there was a 911 call, which is very powerful, in which the script supervisor basically says that it was the AD, assistant director's job, and that they made a mistake. Basically, so there's potentially reasonable doubt, meaning that he could come back and the jury could find him not guilty.
The prosecution, I want to talk about this moment too really quickly. The prosecution successfully entered into evidence a transcript where Baldwin said, quote, "dummy bullets can kill." When they did this, Baldwin was visibly upset with his own words being used against him. It appeared he got up, he left the courtroom. How will the jury perceive this, his reaction to it?
Well, I think it's important to remember that the trial is like theater. It's like a stage. It's like a play. So when the juries are in the jury room, they are watching everything, not only the person taking the witness stand, but how people are reacting and how people or seeing the evidence presented. Now, sometimes stuff is done outside of the jury, and that's where the attorneys will discuss evidence that's going to be presented. And so the juries don't see that part of what's going on during the trial. So they're not aware of exactly what's happening at that point. They're only when they're in the jury room and evidence is being presented and the judge is presiding over it, do they hear the evidence. So some stuff that other people will see, the jury are not privy to that and doesn't know what occurs.
Sure, so that moment likely will not make it into deliberations. Kelly Hyman, thanks so much.